So welcome, Ann, to the UpLevel Podcast. I have been so looking forward to having you here, specifically contributing to this season's topic of the ROI of coaching in the workplace. And everyone's just heard your bio, so that gives you the credibility. But what I have witnessed in the coactive community is how many people, when they're looking for a resource or a coach around coaching in the workplace, or how do I become a coach in the workplace? What is the ROI of coaching in the workplace? How do I be an executive coach? You are the person that people refer people to. So I'm so grateful you said yes.
Well, thank you for that, Christy. And I'm so grateful to have that community that I can give back to, as well as play forward.
Yeah.
And on this topic, the topic of the ROI of coaching, that's really you and I, the passion to do this work well is what really can set this work apart.
Yeah. And so what was your story? Like, how did you find coaching? Because you had a really full career before you made this transition.
I did. I had in total 30 years, but when I was 20 years in, the most miraculous thing happened, and that is I became a mom. And so the minute I became a mom, I knew that some way, somehow, I would find a way to be with my son more than my executive positions enabled me to. And so right in that moment, I knew that I'd be doing something different. So I had 10 whole years to really think about what it was I wanted to do, to get ready for it. So two things popped out for me. One, I led huge groups up to 5,000, budgets up to 8 billion is in the bio. But the moments that I loved the most were the moments when I could support others to know that they were more powerful, more impactful than they even thought they could be. Those are my highlights. And so I knew I wanted to become a coach. I also was very lucky. My organization invested in me and a handful of others to become master certified coaches with Sun Delaney, a year-long program. This was like late 90s, new mom. I thought godsend to motherhood, right?
Wow.
And so very fortunate.
Oh, so Said Delaney, because, I started my career at McDonald's restaurants, and Said Delaney, did you? Is that where you were?
No, Navistar.
Okay.
Old International Harvester.
Okay.
Same geography, though.
Yeah, same. Yeah. And that's interesting because Said Delaney was a huge, catalyst in McDonald's to bring in leadership development, coaching, and all of the things that, we're going to geek out on here today. So that's great. So your organization at that time invested you in that way. And then what happened?
Exactly. And then, and I'm going to really hats off to my organization, because not just the Sun Delaney Master Coach, but the Jim Lehman corporate athlete, pathways, a whole year-long training, lots of development, and 2 executive coaching engagements, which I'll point to in a second. But my executive coaching experience compared to my leadership development experience, where I got to go to the Center for Creative Leadership and do all their programs as well. My executive coaching wasn't the same level of development, although I had one of my biggest ahas in it. And it was only because my coaches were not trained coaches. One was very experienced, an ex-CEO, and one was a psychologist, but both were males. And I was really looking for someone who could help me navigate what it really took to be a successful woman in a male-dominated industry and organization. And so someone who got what I actually, as a working mom at that point, was managing through.
So did you find that person?
Oh, no, I became that person.
You became that person, and yes.
Yes, I became that person.
You sure did.
I searched for 6 months to find the coaching program that I thought would help me become that person.
Yeah.
And I did a lot of the weekend programs to test them all out. And when I did CTI's fundamentals weekend, I knew my search was over.
You had the meet cute with the coactive. I've had one of those myself, and I think a lot of people probably listening have had one of those. And of course, there's many other great modalities and coaching technologies. And I know you've gone on to acquire a lot more certificates. And
Yes,
yeah. But
I
what do
have.
you want to say about that moment in time when you actually entered that coach training? What was the transition or transformation that happened then?
Thank you. When I entered the coach training, the transition that happened for me was really being open to being a beginner again. At that point, I was 28 years in my career and had gained a lot of business skills, a lot of business acumen. I've been in many different operations, many different functions. And so I chose the program that would bring me into a space where I didn't have any knowledge or experience. And that was really supporting people to do the inner work.
Mm.
And I knew that if I wanted to be the coach that I needed, it was the inner work journey that actually was mine to do on my own.
Mm.
So very excited about that.
Yeah. And what was an inner work process or moment that, again, created more transformation in you?
I think it came from when I point to the real gift in my executive coaching engagements while I was in the organization, came from a 360 feedback debrief from one of my coaches.
Mhm.
So after all these years, I just shared all the leadership development programs I was able to be part of. This was the first time that I had interview-based 360 feedback. And as this coach is debriefing it with me, he's going, "Oh, Ann, everybody feels you're so positive, you're so can do, you're so enthusiastic." And I'm like, "Yes, yes, yes." And he goes, "And to some people, that's very annoying."
Oh, dagger to the heart.
It's like, oh,
Oh,
so
ah,
beautiful, such a blind spot,
yeah.
such a, no, not something that the client knew, right? Not something that I could have, that was even showed up in online 360s. Those are the kind of questions that didn't come out, or the kind of feedback that didn't come out in those. So it was pivotal to me. It was so informing, and it has changed how I show up every single day since in all aspects of my life.
Okay, so how did you make that transition then? Like, what shifted in you?
Thank you. What shifted in me was the calibration always to make sure that I was never vibrating too many levels differently than the people I was with or the person I was with.
Ooh, okay, what does that mean?
That
Give us an
means
example.
that means as leaders, we need to have followers.
Hmm.
And if we are too far from where they are currently, either in their energy or their optimism or in their mindsets, then we can't truly connect with them. It feels like we've cast a line too far away. But if to truly meet people where they are, doesn't mean we have to go all the way to where they are. We'd have to go and reach.
Brilliant. It's
So,
brilliant. So you learn to meet people where they are and calibrate this niceness, kindness, because you didn't stop being a kind, nice human. You've just learned like to titrate it or turn the volume up or down based in of the environment and the folks that you're around. Is that accurate?
exactly. And it's
Yeah.
really more the positivity and the love. I was a leader who was very comfortable saying love in the workplace,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, I'm all about that.
very comfortable with all that,
Yeah.
and just learned that I can say it and I can be as positive as I naturally am
Hmm.
and connect with others as long as I come towards them.
Mm. Brilliant. Yeah.
So huge aha.
Huge
So great.
aha.
So
Yeah.
grateful.
And is that the most powerful moment of coaching, or is there a different moment of
That was
coaching?
the most powerful
Powerful.
coaching moment when I
Yeah.
was like, yes, yes, yes. And oh gosh,
Yeah.
annoying. Right?
Yes.
That it
So
was a
true.
blind spot being illuminated by somebody else for me.
Yeah. And how do you define coaching? Is that part of your definition, what you just said?
It is part of my definition. I define coaching as a coactive relationship with a client in service to their goal and their growth and development towards it, both empowered and empowered. So inner work and exterior work, or horizontal and vertical, how we want to put it, right? But it's really recognizing and designing with the client that the client doesn't have all the answers. They have many of them. But as long as they are seeking to be successful in community with others, the community voices also matter.
Oh, that's brilliant, especially when we're working in organizations.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or in families.
Yeah.
Or in parenting, right?
Yeah.
It's
any system, right? Any system.
exactly.
So what had you choose to stay in the arena of organizational work? Because you could have done your coach training and, moved into other areas, maybe parenting, coaching, because that was a new passion, I'm sure. And what was it about organizational work?
What still draws me to this day about organizational work is that I see organizations as nothing more than other people who gather people for us.
Other people who gather people for us. I love that.
And so if we really want to make a bigger difference, here's a whole group of people that have been gathered for us with common purpose, common intent, a system that's there to support them to success. It's just when we insert coaching into that environment, not just as the coach, but as part of the system, and hold the system and the client and the stakeholders as accountable for the client's success as the client is, we're just making a difference on a compounded level.
And you're here to make a difference on a compounded level. It's like,
I am. Not to mention the fact that I always imagined that the generations of women in the workforce behind me would have it easier than I did. I mean, working in manufacturing in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, you can imagine exactly what my career was like. I just always expected it to be easier, and it isn't.
It isn't. Well, I've said this with every person we've talked to in this season. When we look at the past 4 years and the consistent crisis, chaos, and change that humanity has been navigating, it definitely hasn't gotten easier. Hasn't gotten easier. And so from your vantage point, what have you observed over the past 4 years in the workplace? What are you seeing?
Yeah. So from a perspective of coaching, I'm seeing huge shifts in terms of both who's doing the coaching and who's getting the coaching. Some of these shifts started way before the past 4 years, but they've become more critical. So if I go way back, who was doing all the coaching in organizations were people without any coach training.
Yeah.
So I've been a coach for 18 years now. I haven't had anybody ask me if I have a credential. The value of the credential was growing in organizations. And even now, there's more questions that have popped up about the value of the credential with coaching platforms.
Say more about that.
Well, organizations are realizing that the coaching credential doesn't ensure that people know how to coach for organizations, but it ensures that they know how to coach for one-on-one, which is a huge first step in that.
Yeah.
But it's not the panacea. I mean, it doesn't check all the boxes. And I think organizations were hopeful that it would be like one-stop shopping.
Right. And they've learned through trial and error that that's not the case. They actually need to find specific coaches who have organizational background. I mean, in your context, mine too, been in leadership roles so that you can really tune into what's happening for the folks that you're coaching inside. That it's so much value from that perspective. Yeah.
And engaging the needs of the organizations. So I think that's one of the things that's really the biggest difference I see between personal coaching and coaching for organizations is personal coaching, the client sets the goal.
Yeah.
Coaching for organizations, the organization and the client agree on the goal of the engagement. And so it's pulling that piece in that really changes the ROI dramatically for organizations who are investing in it.
Okay, so then let's go there now. What are you seeing? You guys so excited. We're going into ROI. You could geek out. What are you seeing as the ROI of coaching in the workplace then with this evolution that's occurred?
With the evolution of coaching, where coaches are trained and have experience, and at least the ones that I support to really sell their value, they also understand how to engage with the system in which the client is seeking success. When you put all those pieces together, now you have a very high ROI coaching experience. I think my what's so challenging, Christy, when people try to talk about what's the ROI of coaching, oh my gosh, there's so many different kinds of coaching. I don't have a perfect metaphor, but it's like asking what's the ROI of wearing shoes? So many kinds of shoes, so many different terrains. But what can make a huge difference is not treating the coaching as a one-off or as this thing that happens privately between the coach and the client, but rather pull in the entire system that is supposed to be there in support of the client as well to be part of it. With every piece of the system that we pull in, we elevate the ROI and the impact of the coaching. It becomes more sustainable. It becomes more supported by the manager and the rest of the systems. And it really creates this community instead of a coach who becomes the ally for the client's success. And that shifts everything.
This is so important. And I agree with you. I feel like it gets stepped over or not. It's not given the credit that it's due for folks that are doing executive coaching inside organizations. Maybe they're not even aware that they're doing that part, because for some people it would be innate. They understand because they've worked inside an organization. You pull in the stakeholders, we need to align. But for others, they might be doing coaching internally and they're missing that part. And then they're going to be bumping into a whole system of issues. So I'm grateful that you're bringing that forward, because it's not something we've talked about yet in this season. Right. Is there some wisdom or guidance for coaches who want to do more coaching at that systems level and how to think about it, position it?
Yeah. I think the best, one of my great coaches frames it like this, that if we do one-on-one coaching outside of the system, it's like we take these great leaders, we get them out of the pool, we dry them off, and then we leave and we throw them back in the pool. And nothing has changed in their environment. And not people, their stakeholders aren't even aware of what should be different, because there's been no conversations. It's been all just between what the coach and the client spoke of. If one of the key things that makes such a difference for coaches after they receive their one-on-one coach training is to also get training on how to work with the system inside of organizations. And so knowing how to do that in ways that really work, this is the heart of my work, is supporting great coaches to be able to make a living doing this great work by closing that significant gap between one-on-one personal coaching and really high value coaching for organizations by engaging the system.
Can you tell us a bit about the training you provide? This is such good value for people.
Yeah, thank you. It's what you see me answering about inside that. I try to, lots of ways that I try to infuse the systems and the community approach in the coaching community for us to work. It's really knowing that, and it's nothing brilliant, but that no client can be successful in a vacuum. And it's when we actually have the tools to pull in other supporters, so that on the other side of the engagement, not only is the client feeling more confident, their relationships with their key stakeholders are stronger. The system is more aware. When I say system, their individual development process that the organizations have is attuned and tuned into the work of the engagement versus the engagement being done off on the side while they have this separate IDP or personal development plan that they're being held accountable to. It's really the integration of we're all here for the sake and growth of and greater effectiveness of this leader uniting together as opposed to considering coaching a one-off.
And you have, is it a like live program or on demand? Yeah. How could people access this if they're interested?
Absolutely. I have an online product that is fully self-study, self-paced. I also have an executive coach certification program for coaches who want to be trained and certified in the process. And in the middle is executive coach training to really just level up the how of creating the experience that is a reverse engineering of the outcomes that the organization and the client seek.
So brilliant. This is so brilliant. What a good use of you, first of all. Like you really found your calling based on your history and then becoming the coach you always wanted, and then you filled a gap, right? There's such a gap of coaches understanding what you're offering, and it's so mission critical if people want to work inside organizations. And then there's the flip side of that too. So we've got people who are listening who might be the decision makers who are looking at either hiring external coaches or bringing in coach training for their leaders. What guidance or pointing do you have for those individuals? Or maybe they're doing it too. We have a lot of our clients that are listening in. So what's your guidance on that end?
I'll share one of the comments from one of my CHROs that I've supported for years. After experiencing some other programs, other coaches, and some platform coaching, her quote to me was, "Oh my God, I thought coaching was coaching. These experiences are nothing like our work with you." And so what I would say to people who are looking to invest in coaching, to really invest in coaches who can support you to create the sustainability of elevating not just a single leader, but elevating the support that you and your system offer around that leader in the coaching engagements that you're investing in. Now we can talk about ROI. The ROI of an engagement that's reverse engineered to support the client where they are in their situation, recognizing the system in which they're seeking success, what's available to them there, and that elevates their relationships in it. Tools and processes that have been honed to do that well, absolutely significantly elevate the ROI that you'll achieve on your investment.
Brilliant. This is such good wisdom. It's so important. Let's look at it from the perspective of the system versus investing in one individual, which I see so much, with our organizational clients, and they're accountable for the ROI. Like they are on the hook. So to support them to really start thinking at this elevated level with, okay, how do we enroll the system into the process, the stakeholders? This is going to help that person get their goals met, help them, they're a rock star in this process. Obviously, it's going to help the individual receiving the coaching, but also the other stakeholders involved. I mean, how incredible will it feel when they see this person who's getting coaching achieve the goals and they're there, cheering them on, and the business needs have been met and exceeded, as well as the human has grown and elevated. Like, yes, Ann, thank you for bringing this lens. This is super helpful.
Thank you. What I don't want to step over to in today's environment, when the epidemic is loneliness, we focus on, in this process, elevating the quality of the relationships that the client has as well. And the coach partners with the manager. So the manager doesn't feel outside of the coaching. or that they've outsourced it. Oh, I'm so glad they have a coach right now. So you're responsible for their growth and development for a while. We partner with the manager directly so that they are hands-on. So when we pass all of the work to the manager, it's theirs too, not something the coach and the client did without them. So really elevating that number one relationship at work, the one with the manager, as well as helping the client to really lean into the relationships they have at work, can be a huge way to take care of both loneliness and that the number one reason leaders leave organizations is because of not having a great relationship with their manager.
Brilliant. And you're dropping the mic. Just dropping the mic. I mean, it's just a different conversation that I've been having, and I really appreciate this lens. How did you know you were filling a void in the coaching space?
I didn't when I entered it.
Right, which typically happens, right? We don't.
Right. I had no idea.
Yeah.
So again, in it for 18 years, I'd coached for 10,000 hours in organizations.
Congratulations.
In year 2, I needed to find other coaches to help me deliver to my engagements. And so for the past 16 years, I've been supporting other coaches to be able to do this work. And very early in, what I discovered is, they're not seeing, they're not aware there's a gap. Just like I wasn't aware that I was annoying, quite honestly.
Yeah.
To some percent of the population, they weren't aware that they had a gap.
Yes. Yeah.
And so heartbreakingly, I think the data is, I've seen it cited as many as 84% of trained coaches give up before the end of year 2.
I've seen that too. And we've just both seen it being in the industry for so long. It is heartbreaking. There's so many good coaches who can't make a go of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they had no idea that they had a gap.
Yeah.
And closing this gap is one of the key enablers to be able to land business with organizations. One of the first questions you'll be asked is, tell me about your coaching process. And it can't be that I meet a couple of times a month with your client and they bring whatever they want to the coaching.
Yeah.
There has to be a process.
Yes.
It has to be a process. So
yes.
The process that I teach is what I've used personally for 18 years for 100% client company re-engagement and 100% client growth assessed rates. And so it's not like we're experimenting here. We're just leveling up. We're just leveling up.
Yeah. There's the ROI right there too. From your business, like you're seeing such a return. That's incredible. What are you most proud of?
Well, that takes me to a whole different window. I'm most proud of doing all of this while being a mom. Beginning my business grew while I was taking my son back and forth to school for the first, 8 years of my business. And then took care of my dad. I was not in my home, but in his needs for his Alzheimer's battle for 5 years. So I had a window where for 3 years, both my son and my father were diagnosed to be of the same age. One adolescence and Alzheimer's, right? So I'm most proud of knowing how to build the business that enabled me to still be who I needed to be most importantly in my life. That's what I'm most proud of.
Beautiful. And it was a catalyst to why you chose this path, right? You said
absolutely.
You knew you were going to be a mom. You were going to shake things up and shift things, and you've done it. And what's been a challenge for you in growing this business? It's more you're doing way more than coaching. You're an educator, a leader in the community, a teacher. You're building content. You're consulting to organizations on these and bringing bigger engagements in. So, what's been a challenge?
I think the challenge is like even you just listing all those made me tired.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Totally. Totally. Yeah.
The challenge always has been how do I stay on focus? The same thing I had to learn, honestly, when I became a working mom at the level I was in versus just a high level.
Mm-hmm.
I had to figure out then, and I have to figure out every day, what are the importance and what do I let go of?
Mm-hmm.
So just keeping my eye on not doing it all, just doing what matters most and putting the rest down has been a practice that I didn't start with. I did just continuing to check to make sure that I'm doing that which really matters. And I'm not worrying about the things that really don't.
And how do you hold yourself accountable to that? Because I feel like that's the human conundrum is like saying yes to the right things, saying no to the right things and being okay with that. So how are you holding yourself to account? There might be someone listening who's like, yeah, I'm trying to do that, but I keep failing. And
I think I'd have to say two things. One, I create a practice for it. I even created my own planner because I grew up on the Covey planners, but I've created one that works for me specifically where I can hold myself to that. But I want to really credit the work that I did with Eckhart Tolle. I think like where I can fall out and what my practice truly is to stay in conscious presence versus get sucked into ego. I mean, I can see the ego come and go and, oh, if I did that too, look, they're over there. If I did that too, it'd be so great. I just have to stay true to who I am and what matters most. And for me, it always just keeps coming back to love. So as long as I hang in that space, Christy, and just, watch the trains go by with other opportunities that are other people's work to do.
Yes.
That I can keep doing the work that is most powerful that I can do, all informed by all the opportunities I've been given up to this point. If I stay in that sweet spot, then I feel I can make the biggest difference.
I'm going to say this, and I hope you receive it as an acknowledgement. I feel like you're really stepping into elder in the community where do you receive it as an acknowledgement?
Absolutely.
Okay, good. Yeah, because it's this understanding that you don't need to be yes to everything and the one that's doing and holding all the things, but that there are other people coming up who need that experience, need that opportunity. And you're willing to sit back. And energetically, that's how I feel you in the community. You have this elder energy about you. And so what's it like to be in that energy? And like, when did you notice yourself kind of making that natural transition?
I love that. I have one coach client who actually even, she cracked up when she called me on the phone last week because she has me in her contacts as her biz mama.
So I love it. That's awesome. That's so great. That's beautiful.
Consciously, I have moved into what I call my third chapter, which is me paying back. It's my legacy move where I just want to get all the things that have worked for me over all this combined, 48 years now, into the hands of other coaches so it lives on beyond and above me. And so that's a conscious shift that I'm on to really move to that elder status.
Okay, so you talked about the practices, but are there other practices you're doing that support you to be conscious and to have the capacity and the energy to create this life and this work that you've created so beautifully?
Oh, wow. Boy, you're in trouble now, Christy. You've asked me to talk about my practices.
Do you have a few? I'm all ears. I'm all ears.
I have a few. My favorite, I'm going to call this my secret sauce for me personally as a human are my sacred mornings. I ground, as we started this time together, I ground every morning outside. And I don't start work with clients until 11 a.m.
Amazing. So you give yourself your mornings back. You took your mornings back.
I took my mornings back. Exactly.
Yes.
One of the things I noticed in the first few years of my business is I caught myself, Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week was my 2x4 to my forehead. I caught myself recreating the Monday through Friday, same kind of hours, same kind of schedule in my own business. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. Thank you, Tim Ferriss.
Yeah.
And so interrupting that to not start till 11, I end by 5:30. I'm very conscious of, I have a go to work practice and an end the day practice. Very conscious of being fully where I am, wherever I am. And so I really try hard to use that whole, thank you, Eckhart Tolle, conscious presence, making the most of who I'm with and what I'm focused on trying to do. So those have been my teachers. And those have been practices that and the more I say it out loud.
We got balloons coming here on Zoom because the universe is so proud of you, Ann, and you just honored some of your teachers. So there was a celebration that happened here for folks who aren't seeing the YouTube video. We had balloons go off. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think
that's like the main thing, having your mornings for taking care of yourself, grounding, space, movement. And that's, it's so important. I think for a lot of folks who, entrepreneurs who come from a corporate upbringing, it's so easy just to stay in that matrix and to, because it's what we grew up. It's in our, like, literally we have the neural pathways, 9 to 5, Monday to Friday. And it's like, no, but you didn't choose this to live that way. So thank you for that reminder to take our mornings back. I mean, I think that's a good one for all of us to hear right now. Yeah.
Beautiful.
What's something that feels like you're really wanting to share around this topic that we haven't explored yet?
I want to say, because of where we went here, and I never know where we're going to go in conversation, Christy, this is just so fun. But I want to say that to the coaches who may be listening, you don't have to have had experience in organizations in order to do this work. But you do have to have expertise and experience that make you a logical, credible source for whatever need it is you're trying to serve. And so I'm saying that out loud because I've supported coaches who are brilliant yogi masters to create wonderful businesses with coaching for organizations, staying in their lane of expertise, serving the needs of executives to be more mindful, as one example. So I just don't want people to think it's either you were in corporate or in organizations or not. But I would challenge us to look at organizations as every place that people are gathered. We've all been part of a school system. We may be part of a church community. Any community that we're part of is a community we can serve because we get what's important to them.
That's brilliant. Yeah, that's really important. You don't have to necessarily have been that people manager or, had that role inside an organization. And I also hear you holding us accountable, but do get some experience and training around the system so that you're engaging it so that that the ROI is there. Because we all want to keep coaching in the workplace, right? So this is the way, this is the language, we do need to show its impact, and engaging the system is a way to do that.
Beautiful.
That's brilliant. I don't want to go yet. I feel like we just scratched the surface with you, Ann.
So what else would you like to ask me?
What's something that you're looking forward to? Something that's on the horizon?
I'm really looking forward to me shifting my game even further. I've been supporting coaches a lot to build their businesses, very much focused on how to land the work, but I'm really looking to shift my focus even more on how to deliver the work. I just think it's so important to keep more work coming. You just alluded to it. In order to make sure organizations continue to invest in coaching, and they continue to make it available. I mean, the other trend that I neglected to mention is, when I was getting coaching way back in the Way Machine again, only the senior levels had it available to them. It hasn't been that way for 10 years. It's available to multiple levels.
Yeah.
Now, it's not democratization because the same quality of coaching hasn't been made available to all levels, but it's coming. That's coming too, as more and more coaches do the training to really know how to engage system and get these higher ROIs. More people in organizations will have access to that too. So it's almost like the training comes first, and then more opportunities will grow because more organizations who get to experience the difference in what this feels like when they are absolutely in the engagement with the client and the coach.
Yeah.
I'm going to want more of that.
Yes. Yes.
We need coaches ready to do it.
Okay. So everybody, you're going to call Ann and get that training if you haven't already. That's really mission critical. And then let's hear your wisdom, your final words for now. Yes. To the folks who are inside organizations who are looking at making these kinds of investments, building these kinds of programs. Maybe they are already.
Yes.
What do you want them to know?
I want them to know that investing in coaching is always the right thing. Well, it is the most powerful return on your investment in your talent, because it's this place that creates the safety for the human to learn, like I had to do, things like, how they're getting in their own way. With that goodness, there are different levels of return on your investment, depending on the kind of coaching you bring in. And so I would just invite you to also be conscious about that. So it's a heck yes to coaching, and just be aware of the return on investment that you're getting by the way you're bringing coaching in and making it available. 3 things to look for in your coaches: deep transformational coach training. I'm saying that because there's some really quick and dirty coach trainings coaches can go through, but they don't walk away knowing how to do the inner work. And that's so much of the power of the work that we're talking about here. So, yes, they need to have some context to understand what it takes to be successful in your environment. And it's not because you want them to tell your clients what to do. The context gives us the gift of being able to know where to shine the spotlight, where to put the flashlight, not telling them what to do once we find it. I don't do mentoring in my coaching for organizations. I do mentor coaching. I'll shine the spotlight based on, as mentor coaches do for our coaching skills, on something that's important for the client to pay attention to. But I won't tell them how to do it based on my experience, because my experience is not theirs. My system is not theirs. Instead, I'll point them to where can they get mentoring inside their system that can help them in the area that we shine the spotlight on.
Brilliant. And the third?
The third is, I talked about the mentoring. I talked about the coaching. The third piece is really make sure that the coach can tell you the process they use to engage your full system.
Okay, that's brilliant. You heard it here, folks, on the UpLevel Podcast with the brilliant Ann Farrell. We're learning so much from you. We just got up-leveled like tenfold. And I just wanted to thank you so much for dropping wisdom nugget after wisdom nugget after wisdom nugget. And elderhood looks so good on you. Like you're just glowing. And it's just, we hadn't even talked before ever, but I've just been seeing you, and I'm just so grateful that I'm in your orbit now. And I hope you'll come and talk to Rachel and I again, and we can find ways to collaborate. You're doing really important work, and it's beautiful to hear where it started and where it's headed. So thank you for bringing your whole self today and being so present with us.
Thank you, Christy. Thank you so much for this and the great work that you're doing. And I will be here anytime you invite me to be.
We'll be calling.